And we're back. I'm here with Sarah Lazarus, Hallie Kiefer, and Kendra James. We are one day away from Election Day. The polls close in a little over 24 hours from now. A hush falls over the studio. We were in, John, Tommy, Dan, and I, with Nina from the Vote Save America team, we were in Arizona and Nevada.
How'd it go?
I would say that, like, leaving those two places, I could see the experience would justify either outcome. We were knocking on doors. One thing is, like, you realize, like, oh, people have been to these doors before, and we're on to the last few. So you're, like, knocking on a door, walking a few, knocking on another door. A lot of people aren't home. A lot of people aren't answering. A lot of people are sick of answering. We did get a couple doors where it was somebody saying, oh, yeah, I was going to vote sometime next week. Wait. Wait, you can only vote on Tuesday now. Do you have your ballot? You can drop it off in person on Tuesday, or you can vote in person. Do you know where your polling site is? Let's find you your polling site. There were undecided voters. There were people that answered the door saying that they weren't planning to vote and weren't registered, and it's too late to register, so there's no reason to try to persuade them. But there are people in the House that might be persuadable, so arming those people with the information to give the people in their house. You realize also when you're talking to people that aren't paying attention closely to politics, how simple and clean you want to make the final conversation. And, like, you know, you're this is a person who's answering the door, does not feel it's a Sunday morning or a Saturday afternoon. They do not feel like talking about politics with a stranger. And they're like, oh, Angela's not home right now. And we're like, wait, when Angela gets home, just tell her. And then you got to decide what you wanted. And you're like, Kamala Harris will bring down the cost of prescriptions, and Donald Trump wants a national sales tax. You can't have a national sales tax. Nevada can't afford a national sales tax. Okay, on to the next door. And you realize, like, man, there are, John Ralston, the famed Nevada reporter, always does a prediction. He knows the Nevada electorate better than anybody. His prediction for the race came out, and he had it 48.5 to 48.2%. That's a 4,000 vote margin. Oof. And now, who knows if that's going to be right or not? He doesn't know if it's going to be right or not, but it tells you that we are fighting house to house, street to street, ballot to ballot in this final stretch, and we will lament forever why it was so close, but it is, and it's hard, and it will not get easier tomorrow, and then we will start to find out what happened. So let's get into it. What an election. On Saturday, the famed Seltzer poll conducted by the Des Moines Register showed Kamala Harris leading Donald Trump by a shocking 47% to 44% in Iowa. This was a shocking result. When I first saw it on my phone, I thought, wow, Trump's only winning by 3% in Iowa. Now, just so people understand, this is a poll by Ann Seltzer. She is considered one of the greatest pollsters in the U.S. Her polls of Iowa are the gold standard. They have often in the past been outliers that, in hindsight, caught a trend that other people were missing. The last time her presidential poll was off, it was 20 years ago when she had John Kerry beating George W. Bush. But even if you apply that error to this race, it still shows Trump winning Iowa pretty narrowly, which would suggest that there is a broader polling error. Now, Ann Seltzer could be wrong. She, in an interview with Tim Miller, friend of the show, said that, one day her polling method will be wrong, and then she'll be scattered across Des Moines in little pieces, and she's, I think, prepared for that. But it was a reason to be hopeful, especially when you dig into what the numbers tell us, which is basically women are fucking pissed about Dobbs, and in a state like Iowa, where they have snapped to a pretty draconian abortion law, women, including older women, are saying they want something different. And it seems, and this again was a strange result, that older women are bringing their husbands along.
I know it's hard to get excited, but also I want to.
Yeah.
I don't think it speaks to, like, my algorithm is now queer enough that I don't see that anymore.
Oh, God
But
bless.
that's depressing.
So the Seltzer poll becomes a choose your own adventure. You can decide that one poll is wrong, or every poll but one is wrong. This is either an outlier or the other polls are out and outliers. Huh? Either way, let's make a note to circle back after the election to figure out what the fuck happened. As for why Harris is polling so strongly, Seltzer said this on MSNBC.
the reason she is leading is because of her strength with women generally, even stronger with women age 65 and over. Her margin is more than 2 to 1. And this is an age group that shows up to vote or votes early in disproportionately large numbers. So
Women can get that old? Asked Donald Trump.
Hey, why don't they just make the whole plane out of hand seltzer?
Yay! But also, as a woman over 40, it's like, well, you get up at 5 in the morning anyways. You're not going to get out and vote?
Yeah.
My God.
My mom's walking the mall.
If we had a mall.
What time are you waking up these days, Hallie?
I literally today, 4:45.
Wow.
And I feel great. It's just biologically, it's just happening.
Daylight savings time.
Oh, you know what? That makes sense. But then I 5:30 usually. Yeah.
This weekend, Kamala Harris came face to face with her doppelganger, Maya Rudolph, on Saturday Night Live.
I don't really laugh like that, do I? A little bit.
Not to be outdone, Donald Trump also spoke to his doppelganger, a friggin' melty jack-o'-lantern.
Got him.
Got him.
Cardi B joined Kamala Harris on the campaign trail in Wisconsin.
I can't stand a bully. But just like Kamala, I always stand up to one. All the time, I'm ready for him. Yeah. And I'm going to be real with y'all. I wasn't going to vote this year. I wasn't. But Kamala Harris joining the race, she changed my mind completely.
I'm just glad Joe Biden isn't alive to hear this. Elon Musk attacked the singer on X after Cardi's teleprompter went down during the rally and a staff member had to bring her phone so she could read her speech. Said Elon, another puppet who can't even talk without being fed the words. The Kamala campaign has no authenticity or true empathy. Sorry, not all of us can come up with gems like this right off the cuff, Elon.
I hate that guy. Jeez.
Cardi B replied to Elon saying, I'm not a puppet. I'm a daughter of 2 immigrant parents that had to work their asses off to provide for me. I'm a product of welfare. I'm a product of Section 8. I'm a product of poverty. And I'm a product of what happens when the system is set up against you. But you don't know nothing about that. You don't know one thing about the American struggle. P.S. Fix my algorithm. Cardi, get off of fucking Twitter. Now, to be fair, Cardi, Elon is also the child of immigrant parents. Here's one of them now trying to insult Kamala Harris's speaking ability.
They can put sentences together, and you know who can't. The absurdity of the absurd in the absurdity is absurd. I mean...
Of course.
Really.
What the fuck?
Oh, my God.
Please Google May Musk and Errol Musk. Please read everything you can about this man's parents.
Deeply troubling
More
clip.
importantly, if you're not watching this on YouTube, actually go look at that clip.
That is a chilling clip. She fritzes out completely.
I mean, she looks good doing it, but...
I feel like South African is an underrated evil accent. It
For
just
sure.
really lends itself.
I got in trouble with CBS HR for saying that.
Well, I don't work for
Not
CBS.
here.
Yeah,
Not here.
Say it all you want.
Yeah, you could say it all you want. Anybody who's seen Lethal Weapon 2 can tell you that the South African diplomatic immunity.
I will say on the entire
Fiancé.
90 Day Fiancé franchise, we have not seen one good man come out of South Africa.
Okay,
lot of
well,
bad
you know, I
ones.
think that show probably has a kind of filter of its own that might lead to some bias in the results.
Just
But I
saying.
hear your point. Has anyone but me seen Lethal Weapon 2? Is that Lethal Weapon 2? Yes, it's Lethal Weapon 2.
I mean, probably as a child.
Well, a lot of South African accents figure pretty prominently in that film. LeBron James also endorsed Kamala Harris.
I have a daughter, I have a wife, I have a mother, and things of that nature. What she believes in when it comes to women's rights, when it comes to the future, with my kids and where I see our country should be. I feel like that endorsement is only right.
It means a lot that LeBron would endorse Kamala, given how much Trump physically resembles a basketball. Got him. Meanwhile,
Got him.
Donald Trump really went for it during this last weekend on the campaign trail. So for those listening, I don't know. He seemed to be pantomiming giving a hand-in blowjob to the microphone. Mm-hmm. And obviously that seems like a strange thing for Donald Trump to do because it was in the context of him being mad at his advance staff or whoever was putting this event together for the microphone either not working or not being loud enough. And it just doesn't seem like him pantomiming giving a blowy. is like in his kind of, I don't know,
repertoire.
It doesn't seem to be. It's not something that he would seem to want to be saying he'd do. It's just strange.
Well, the thing about Donald Trump is that he's growing and evolving every day, constantly becoming a new person. So we have to take that into account.
It is like you see like an untalented comedian, like he uses the same material all the time. He's probably getting diminishing returns. So he's like, I gotta get him. I got new material, and this is what he came up with.
Yeah, I watched some of this speech, and he does. It's his riffing on the microphone not working properly goes on for eons. I mean, he spends a whole lot of time on it, and there's really anger. He's very angry, and not in his. He's always angry. He's an angry man, but there's a kind of quiet anger. He's very angry that he's having to do this. He's mad at his team. He's definitely seeming like someone who's coming off stage and yelling at a bunch of people. He at some point smacks the microphone away in a very kind of menacing and strange way, and then he does this. He's just losing it up there. He really is. And it is just a reminder, given what he did to that microphone standard, that no mic is safe around this guy because of what he tried to do to Mike Pence.
Give him a blowjob.
For any potential female Trump voters concerned about women's reproductive health, don't worry, the man has a plan.
And I told a great guy, RFK Jr., Bobby, I said, Bobby, you work on women's health, you work on health, you work on what we eat, you work on pesticides, you work on everything.
The first thing on Kennedy's to-do list is to take all the fluoride out of the water. But don't worry, the second thing is putting it in all the women. Oh, no. So this is a deeply strange thing that Donald Trump is doing here. Like, Kamala Harris, the campaign put out two 2-minute ads today, both a very clean closing message about being a president for all Americans, common sense solution, taking on the high cost of goods, a kind of patriotic, optimistic, homestretch message. One of them includes a country that's no longer beholden to the corrupt and the billionaires, includes a shot of Trump and a shot of Elon, just sort of a clean closing message that makes sense. For whatever reason, Donald Trump is just unleashing RFK Jr. here in the home stretch, who is saying they're going to take fluoride out of the water, that they're going to come after vaccines. He's echoing it. And we were talking about this a bit on Pod Save America, that there's some theory to it, if you're going to try to lay a theory on it, which is that RFK Jr. is still on the ballot in Michigan, for example. They're worried that low information voters that are going to vote for RFK don't know that he endorsed Trump, so they're trying to kind of get those people together. I have to think, like, so much of this campaign, so much of the reason we were so hopeful that Joe Biden would step aside to make room for Kamala Harris was just our belief that even in a polarized electorate, a fractured media environment, an angry populace, that politics matters. And we just needed a candidate who could do politics. That Kamala Harris would be a new voice and she could do politics, deliver messages, do hits, do press, release great ads, inspire people, do the basics. And she's done more than that. She's been an extraordinary candidate. But here we are. We know the polls have been tied for weeks. And in the final 2 weeks, basically, ever since Madison Square Garden, so I guess that's the last 9-10 days, has been seemingly astrategic, rambling, unable to deliver a closing message. He has been making deranged comments about reporters, about Liz Cheney. He was asked about RFK Jr. talking about vaccines. He said he's open to it. And we went into this supposedly tied. New polls come out showing it is still tied. But if this really was a tied race on the day that the MSG rally happened, you're going to tell me 10 days, the closing 10 days, having Kamala Harris hitting her marks at every fucking turn and Donald Trump making a mess of it and saying the most unhelpful, toxic things a candidate could say in the home stretch, that's not going to have an influence? Like, if we believe politics matters, I have to believe this matters. That's sort of where I'm at.
Yeah, it's just crazy that it's like RFK must have visited him during this week, and that was it. Like, they had one conversation, and that's all he can think about.
Or they really like, hey, we need to make sure that the RFK people come along. And so you got to go out and get the RFK people under maybe some assumption, which has been baked into a lot of what the Trump campaign has done, which is that when Donald Trump says this terrible shit on the trail, it reaches either people who like it or nobody, or people who have already made up their minds and are supporting Kamala. And so they're trying to get a message directly to the RFK people who might hear it just because it's in their kind of information ecosystem, and it won't alienate the last group of undecided people that are making up their minds. But as we heard from David Plouffe, that late deciders are breaking towards Kamala. We saw that in the Times Siena poll that came out over the weekend, that especially in the Sun Belt, late breaking voters are breaking towards Kamala. That poll had a strange result that showed in some of the northern battlegrounds, the Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, that together late deciders are breaking towards Trump, but that could be for a variety of different reasons, and it doesn't totally comport with what Plouffe is saying. Who knows? But I just, my hope and belief is that for this last group of people that are just making up their mind, they have told pollsters again and again that they're upset about the economy. They believe the economy was better under Donald Trump, but they have deep concerns about him as a human being. And none of this is helping him. And I just have to hope that parents seeing in the home stretch, like, wait a second, they're going to ban vaccines, like the vaccines that keep our kids safe. That's just I got my candle lit for basic politics, and we'll find out, I suppose. While voters were already at the polls, Trump took a moment to point out that he could be on fucking vacation right now.
That white, beautiful white skin that I have would be nice and tan. I got the whitest skin because I never have time to go out in the sun, but I have that beautiful white, and you know what? It could have been beautiful tan.
So this seems to be something of a self-deprecating response to the photos he must have not liked of him doing the garbage truck thing where he looked bronzed and people are making fun of him, which he must be seeing. But very strange because he doesn't look pale because he gets bronze. He's kind of admitting that he uses the bronzer because he's so deathly pale under there.
You went there. I went to, like, maybe we can insert the thing. That was like a huge, just like not even a dog whistle. That's him reminding his people that this is black versus white. This is white versus like both woman and miscegenation. Like that to me is what
like
that
I'm all
was.
white under here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wondered that because he has done riffs on this skin before, and it is strange how much he says beautifully white skin, beautifully white skin. Yeah, maybe you're right. Kendra, how are you feeling right now? Because we were talking before we recorded. Sometimes you're hard to pin down, and I can't tell how anxious you are going into tomorrow.
I'm not anxious, mostly because of hearing stuff like that, I'm constantly reminded, and I think I just move through life with the constant reminder and knowledge that when it comes down to it, there is a large unconscious bias against black women and at large women of color in this country, but like specifically black women. People see us as angry, aggressive, impulsive, all of those things. And like, as well as Kamala Harris has been running this campaign and has been doing, that bias, unconscious or otherwise, has like worried me this entire summer. And I think that whether he's doing it consciously or not, because he doesn't make plans, we know that could have just come out. But that is such a reminder to a group of people who are not thrilled to vote for a black woman in the first place.
Meanwhile, here's a Trump supporter after Donald Trump repeated his claim that Kamala Harris never worked at McDonald's.
She never worked there, but I did a little bit. This place is amazing.
Just for those, somebody shouted, she worked on the corner. And that got a great response from this crowd. Everybody's a comedian these days, except for Tony Hinchcliffe, who is history's greatest Democratic operative. The man went undercover as a roast comedian, worked his way into the Austin comedy scene, slowly but surely building trust until he was activated 9 days ago by a text from Nancy Pelosi with the go order. Operation Basura had begun. While in North Carolina, Trump seemed to think he was in Pennsylvania, calling for Pennsylvania's Republican Senate contender to join him on stage.
And you have one of the best of all right here, David McCormick. You know that. Where's David? Is he around someplace?
Just going to throw it out there that Donald Trump is the oldest candidate to ever run for president. Trump continued, is that him in the back, standing next to those translucent figures who resemble my dead parents? No, don't beckon to me. I'm busy right now. I can't step into that beautiful light. Trump also joked about reporters getting shot at his rallies.
And I have this piece of glass here. But all we have really over here is the fake news, right? And to get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much.
No, it's like everything is being kind of, I don't know, everything gets like put through the sieve of it's the last 24 hours. At a place like this, someone shot through the crowd and killed someone, a supporter of his, on their way to wounding Donald Trump. And he's fantasizing, is a presidential candidate, former president, fantasizing about journalists dying in a hail of gunfire while this group of people laughs all around him. And, you know, we may beat Trump tomorrow, and I hope we do. It will be a good outcome. But we should also remember, no matter what happens, that Trump has revealed how many people want to get into their Toyota Highlanders and drive to a field somewhere and fantasize about TV reporters dying in a hail of gunfire. That they are laughing and enjoying it and finding this hilarious. Trump's spokesperson, Steve Chung, denied he was joking about the press being assassinated, saying in a statement, in fact, President Trump was stating that the media was in danger in that they were protecting him and therefore were in great danger themselves and should have had a glass protective shield also. There can be no other interpretation of what was said. He was actually looking out for their welfare far more than his own.
I know this has been pointed out constantly for a decade, but if any previous politician had said nothing else that Trump has said and just said this one thing 24 hours before the election, landslide, election over, completely disqualifying.
If Kamala Harris said one sentence this man has said in the last 16 years, like, she wouldn't be able to run. Like, imagine her saying any of this. And we're just supposed to be like, oh, right. My thing about this is, why are you pointing out the logistical flaws? This in your security? Why would you do this? People can see this. And he thinks there's not another maniac. Like, look at who you're surrounding yourself. And these people are voting for you.
He also, you know, there was a news cycle. I don't think we were able to cover it because I think it happened in between our two previous recordings where he said that imagine what would happen if you put a gun in Liz Cheney's hand and all the guns were pointed on Liz Cheney. And he claimed that in the context, it's obvious what he means. He's saying that she's a chicken hawk and has sent people and wants to send people into harm's way, but actually wouldn't face it herself. So that's why he is having a bloody fantasy about what it would be like to watch Liz Cheney be murdered. This is a bloody fantasy that he's having for the amusement of his biggest fans, and not only for their amusement, to also just signal to them that this is a funny, cool thing to joke about. We all think it's funny to imagine reporters being murdered. We all think it's funny to imagine Liz Cheney being assassinated. These are funny, jokey things. At a time when he was shot at, there was a failed plot at his golf club. There was a failed assassination attempt. He was shot at. That was one of the centerpieces of his convention before Joe Biden dropped out. It clearly has it's ironic, but this person who has to never admit any kind of weakness whatsoever has clearly carried some kind of trauma from having this experience happen to him. He can't stop bringing it up. He has on his mind people being shot and murdered in front of him all the time. But like, regardless of what happens tomorrow, we just can't forget Trump wins. We are fighting this authoritarian, bloodthirsty version of the Republican Party. Trump loses, we're fighting that same group of people. And they're not going anywhere. This isn't going anywhere. The next person to be the Republican nominee, whoever that may be, whenever that may be, is not going to be Mitt Romney. It's going to be somebody who learned from this and realized that there were millions of people who were excited by this kind of politics. As Trump was fantasizing about his political enemies being killed, Trump fans were riffing off President Biden's garbage supporter comment last week, dressing as trash bags for Halloween. Here's Megyn Kelly all bagged up with the caption, "Happy Halloween, garbage people." It's nice to see she got to use her wedding dress again. This picture to me is like, I don't know, put it in the time capsule. No one was more excited than Megyn Kelly to have a reason to be offended, to finally be back in the chair saying the things she wants to say more than anything else, which is, how dare they? How could they? Oh my goodness. Can you believe what they said about us? This entirely fake and performative grievance and offense to justify doing something that she knows to be despicable, which is supporting Donald Trump. I really it is Monday. The election is tomorrow. We cannot forget what these people did. No matter what happens, we have to remember what these people did and who was tough and who was honest and who was full of fucking shit and willing to embrace someone as manifestly unfit as Donald Trump. Nobody who went out there and decided to ignore their morals, their ethics, their values, to embrace Donald Trump is someone we ever should listen to again. Ever. Barf. All right. As it turns out, not every voter is as mentally chained to the news as we are, with some people missing Biden's slip of the tongue entirely and interpreting Trump's recent garbage truck photo op as the former president doubling down on the Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage joke from his MSG rally. As a Puerto Rican voter in Pennsylvania told the Huffington Post Sunday, if he didn't have anything to do with it, what's he doing in the garbage truck? The answer is, of course, just being stupid. But they don't have to know that until Friday. It is like, when I saw that he was doing this thing of getting in the garbage truck and riding around a garbage truck, I was like, why are you highlighting this? Joe Biden's not on the ballot, and it's a conversation around a joke at your rally that is costing you votes. And yet he did it anyway. And also, not that it was the most important part of it, the metaphor doesn't make sense. Because if you're taking out the garbage, what's the garbage? Because in your verse, you should be saying there is no garbage.
The garbage man is anti-garbage.
Yeah.
Right, the garbage man is anti-garbage. The garbage man is saying there's no garbage here. That doesn't make any sense.
You should have stuck to the whole swamp thing.
If he's getting in a garbage truck, it suggests that there's some garbage somewhere. Maybe it's the supporter who said there's garbage in Puerto Rico.
If anything, you should be getting in the back of the garbage truck.
He is garbage.
Right, he is
Yeah,
garbage.
yep.
And Joe Biden is the garbage man.
Yes.
Seems so obvious. Sources close to Biden say that after he shuffled out of that press conference where he made the gaffe, he stood upright, smirked, lit a cigarette, and said, the greatest trick Dark Brandon ever pulled was convincing the world he doesn't exist, before cracking a pineapple in half with his bare hands. He's pretending to be old. This morning, Senator Jack Reed told reporters that if elected, Donald Trump will act like a fascist and flood the Pentagon with his lackeys. Said Trump, seize him! Oh, I'm sorry. That's jumping ahead a little bit. This guy's crazy. I guess the Jack Reed guy, we've got to look into that. Meanwhile, RFK Jr., the man Donald Trump promised to put in charge of the Department of Health and Human Services, vowed to remove fluoride from the nation's drinking water as soon as Trump was inaugurated. Doctors hate this one weird politician. Kennedy tweeted that they would remove fluoride from America's drinking water. He then went on to say, instead of fluoride, I think we should add, I'm just spitballing here, a ton of fucking worms? Because it's the worm in charge. It's the worm pulling the strings now.
I knew it.
The fluoridation of water to prevent mass tooth decay is considered by the CDC to be one of the 10 great public health achievements of the 20th century. Number 9 was not giving RFK Jr. control of the water supply, but I guess that one's out the goddamn window. When asked by NBC about RFK Jr.'s plan on Sunday, Trump said, quote, well, I haven't talked to him about it yet, but sounds okay to me. You know it's possible. Glad we're approaching America's water with the same casualness as letting your teen nephew cook Thanksgiving dinner. Probably nothing will go wrong, but let me actually sit down and think about it when I get home. In other conservative news, Tucker Carlson said he was attacked by a demon while in bed with his wife and 4 dogs.
I had a direct experience with it.
In the milieu of journalism or just?
Nope, in my bed at night, and I got attacked while I was asleep with my wife and 4 dogs in the bed and mauled. Physically mauled.
In a spiritual attack by a demon?
Yeah, by a demon. Or by something unseen that left.
Is that right?
Claw marks on my sides.
Yeah, it's probably a demon, said a man who sleeps in bed with 4 dogs.
And look, we can't rule out his wife. I'd maul him.
How big is the bed?
I really thought this was a bit.
He also, by the way, in another interview, basically goes on at length about how hurricanes are punishment for a society that is permissive around abortion. He is going full Christian nationalist. This is somebody, Tucker Carlson, if he has a skill, one of them is knowing where the wind is blowing and knowing where the right is going. And this is alarming, not because he's some terrifying menace, but because I think he is seeing where a good subset of the right is going, and it is towards this kind of Christian nationalist, millenarian, which is like kind of like this apocalyptic version of republicanism, of conservatism. And Trump loses. This guy, I don't know where he falls in the rankings, but he's on the list of potential frontrunners for the Republican nomination for sure.
Do the Catholics speak in tongues? Because it feels like we're a year out from speaking in tongues. Just on a
no, we don't got that. We got like Opus Dei, self-flagellation and stuff. But the problem, the thing about all this is why I always talk about Catholicism is this is all like America is just sort of blending all the worst parts of all the Christianities, which I think is actually called Christianities. And there's something to that where it's like they're taking the parts that are more terrifying that they can manipulate people. It's not really about any adherence to any particular belief system.
Yeah.
It's like Carl Sagan used to say. Uh-oh.
The demon thing really, it works for me for Catholicism, for Pentecostal, for a whole bunch of different ones. So I'm wondering what the weird thing is they can grab next.
Yeah, let us know in the comments below what thing from your Christianity you think they're going to take.
Yeah.
Presbyterians don't hold any. We don't do any of this.
Yeah.
We just go for a nice hour-long service and leave.
I think he should show us the demon scars. Prove that he has demon scars.
How do you tell the difference between a demon scar and a dog claw mark scar?
That's my business. I'll get to the bottom of this.
Thank you for doing that.
Lazarus jumps up. To the tomes. To the ancient texts. On Sunday, the Daily Beast published audio of Jeffrey Epstein from 2017 in which the late financier and sexual predator claimed, "I was Donald Trump's closest friend for 10 years. Uh-oh. Did Jeffrey Epstein think Donald Trump was his best friend, but Trump didn't think Epstein was his? So embarrassing." The Trump campaign said the claims constitute false smears and election interference. Said the campaign, "Shit like this makes us glad we killed him." And finally, social media star Peanut, the squirrel, was euthanized this weekend after he was seized in a raid by state authorities in New York and his body tested for rabies after biting, I believe, an animal control person.
It's really cute.
I know.
Really cute.
I do feel bad for it.
Yeah, I didn't know that rabies was part of it, and now I do understand why maybe we had to go that direction.
Well, yeah, it's just sort of, you shouldn't keep wild animals like this in your house because it might bite someone, and then you have to kill them to test for that.
And if you do have a wild animal in your house, don't make a social media account for it. No one will ever know.
Yeah.
Living in Cuyahoga County really convinced me that there were just any number of animals that I could and should own. I wanted a skunk for so long.
Skunks are cute.
Because they were sold in a pet store in the Elyria Mall.
Yeah, you in Ohio, really, two peas in a pod when it comes to exotic animals.
Can they de-skunk a skunk?
Yeah, they can take out the smell glands.
And then it's what?
It's just a
weird cat.
But is that like declawing a cat? Is that like horrible for the skunk?
That I don't know.
I think living in a house would probably be bad for a skunk. I think they don't actually want any part of this. They don't want to wear a hat.
I don't know. He seems pretty happy.
Does not seem anything.
This
is Helen.
Cipher.
Peanut the squirrel died doing what he loved, having no idea what the fuck was going on. Republicans seized onto the viral story after the squirrel's owners posted about the raid, with the House Judiciary Committee tweeting in support justice for Peanut. On Sunday, J.D. Vance told rallygoers in North Carolina this.
I know Don's fired up about Peanut the squirrel. We were on the way down here from Cincinnati. He was like, is it really the case that the Democrats murdered the Elon Musk of squirrels? And I said, yeah, it sounds like, have you seen the videos of this squirrel? He's a genius, or he was.
Now I've lost all respect for the squirrel.
To quote my favorite Vice President, Al Gore, "Bitch, what?"
I actually now need to know J.D. Vance's thoughts on what happened in Zanesville. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think he's going to be pro it somehow.
Now I really need to know. Zanesville, in case anyone doesn't remember, is when a bunch of Bengal tigers, bears, wolves, Zanesville, Ohio, they all got out because their owner just opened the gate and then I believe committed suicide.
Yes.
And
glad you're bringing this up.
Yeah, and then just let a whole bunch of his wild exotic animals out into the neighboring town. And we lost several endangered animals because that dude did that. Ohio's a great place for animals.
I think J.D. Vance would be a huge fan of that somehow. I feel like he would back into that being totally fine.
This isn't a. It's just so funny. It's like the Democrats. The Democrats have killed Peanut. This is a national issue. It's like this is. I mean, look. This is a like. How does Donald Trump get so close to becoming president? These people will take a fucking local story about a squirrel. By the way, the social media users immediately found an OnlyFans belonging to Peanut's owner, who apparently used the late squirrel in promo video to drive traffic to his site.
You have to watch part of it. I just want me to.
Oh, I hadn't seen this. Okay, I hadn't seen any of this, and now I'm voting for Trump. But the anyway, famously, his OnlyFans tagline began, "So if you like seeing those nuts get buried."
Oh.
You didn't watch Chimp Crazy. There is a connection here. It's the same with Tiger King. There is a connection between the like people who own animals like this and like conservative, we are going to do whatever we want, fuck the greater good, like mindset.
I think here's the problem. Maybe there's nothing to learn from this. Maybe this is just a guy that had a squirrel he wasn't supposed to have in a hamlet of New York on the border of Pennsylvania. And then animal control, maybe they did the right thing. Maybe they shouldn't have gone there. Maybe they should have just ignored it and minded their own business. But animal control goes there. The squirrel bites somebody. You got to kill the squirrel. He's got to find out there's rabies up there in the squirrel brain.
But this has no connection to a presidential election.
This has no connection to a presidential election. Every story doesn't have to be a national story. A squirrel dies in upstate New York, and now J.D. Vance, potentially the next vice president, is on stage saying they killed the Elon Musk of the animal kingdom. What fucking... This is ridiculous. We live in a ridiculous, ridiculous society.
You know what it is? It's nuts.
It's nuts. It's nuts. It is Monday.
Please
There's
vote.
still time for you. You better fucking vote. But there's still time for you to make calls to your friends into swing districts, into swing states. Go to votesaveamerica.com. There are shifts that could use your help right now. Once you've done one last shift for a Senate race, for a House race, for the presidential, we could use one more favor. Right now, there are a lot of people who have cast ballots. They have voted, but their vote is not being counted because there's some problem with their ballot. They forgot to sign it. They didn't have it in the right envelope. There's a lot of reasons a ballot might have to be what they call cured, which means the vote is cast, but they can't count it yet. We need volunteers to sign up and go and find those voters and make sure they cure their ballots. During big elections, thousands of mail-in ballots are often thrown out. These are ballots that could make the difference between winning and losing in battleground states. So we need you to help reach out to those folks. Go to votesaveamerica.com/cure and sign up to be a ballot curing volunteer. With a race this close, it is critical that we count every one of these votes. So please, please, please go to votesaveamerica.com. So that's sign up for one last shift. That's sign up to be a ballot curing volunteer. Also, by the way, just a reminder that once the voting is done, we also will have to be vigilant to make sure that whatever shenanigans Donald Trump and the Republicans have planned to try to throw out ballots, throw out elections, sow chaos and disinformation if they lose, we have to be vigilant over the next couple of weeks. So we're not out yet. And this message has been paid for by Vote Save America. You can learn more at votesaveamerica.com. This ad has not been authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. And as we watch the results come in, this week, Crooked will be bringing you daily election coverage with the latest on every race. Every morning, What a Day will be fresh in your feeds with Jane Coaston, breaking down what you need to know in 20 minutes. Pod Save America will release new episodes every single day, and the hosts from Hysteria and Strict Scrutiny will stop by shows across the network to unpack breaking news. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. I also just want to say thank you to this incredible team behind Love It or Leave It. We have been working towards this day for a long time, and it is stressful, but I feel really grateful that I get to process the inanity and anxiety and hope of politics today with these incredibly talented and funny people and everybody that makes this show happen. It is a joy, and if it has meant something to you to keep you energized and engaged and hopeful even in dark times, just know that there's a great team behind the show, and we're all going through it together. So thank you all for listening. We'll see you on the other side.